Chapter 2254 Prism. Fatty Su and Deng Shintong stood within the area covered by the iceberg and could clearly see the large urban area around them. All the tall buildings were cut into pieces like tofu. Fatty Su couldn't help but swallow his saliva and clenched the nine-toothed rake in his hand. Although I have practiced this countless times, I still find it extremely strange after seeing this outrageous method with my own eyes. However, the surroundings were extremely empty, and they still didn't know where their opponents were. Even if she attacked, there was no way to determine the trajectory of her attack. It was as if her attack came out of thin air. A silver light flashed in Deng Shintong's eyes. He turned his eyes slightly and looked in a certain direction in the ruins. Without any hesitation, he drew out his sword and instantly shot it into the air. A silver four-pointed star appeared on the sword's edge, and the moment the sword was slashed, it reappeared in the void several thousand meters away. The huge four-pointed star covered a large area, and the entire ruins were shattered by the powerful force of light. In the void, a shadowy figure showed a look of astonishment. Deng Shintong's attack was too sudden, and she didn't expect that the other party could find her where she was, so she didn't have time to dodge the attack. However, even if she was prepared, it would be difficult for her to avoid Deng Shintong's heaven etching. Using the void as a prism, he could perform a light-speed slash, allowing his attacks to instantly reach distant locations through the prism. The most severe blow of this attack is the surprise attack. Her body could no longer remain stable and finally revealed a vague and illusory human figure and was thrown out fiercely. Prism. Melgar disappeared into the void again. Her figure could not be seen, but a trickle of blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. Defense is not her forte. Assassination is her specialty. Her ability is to control light and shadow and kill people silently. After all, people always have to live under the light, and she can control the light to turn it into a sharp blade to cut everything. This was the first time she suffered a loss on the battlefield, which gave her a very bad feeling. Why do they seem wary of my abilities? Melgar wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, his heart full of confusion. The direction of her light blade was distorted by the icebergs created by Fatty Su, so it could not hit Fatty Su and Deng Shintong successfully. What the light blade hates most is not the thick physical defense layer, but this method of distorting light. Did my ability leak? Or is it just a coincidence? She was unwilling to accept the former because she had never participated in the crusade against the Huashu kingdom and was one of the silver-armored generals responsible for guarding the empire. Therefore, theoretically speaking, it would be difficult for the strange people in Huashu kingdom to obtain her information. Unless there is a traitor, and the traitor is at least at the level of silver-armored general or above. This possibility is even lower. At this level, their willpower is extremely strong, and they would rather die than betray their country. So, what is going on? Is it a coincidence? Melgar was a little confused at this time, but she decided to try again. In the fleeting glimpse, the murderous intent is hidden under the huge light. Huge blades of light without shape or even thickness appeared silently in the void and slashed towards Deng Shintong and Fatty Su. This time, she deliberately avoided the icebergs created by Fatty Su. But this time, Deng Shintong's lips moved slightly, and Fatty Su quickly created more huge ice barriers. This time it was more direct. A huge dark blue ice wall rose between them and Melgar, completely distorting the light. Melgar's attack missed again, and this time she was finally sure that the other party fully understood her abilities. Melgar's face turned extremely ugly. As an alien who relied on special abilities to kill her opponents, the leakage of her abilities had a huge impact on her. But she couldn't understand how the other party was able to sense her attack. However, she didn't know that at this moment, in Deng Shintong's eyes, she was not a distorted existence at all. Melgar's invisibility is achieved by distorting light. But as a person with the same light attribute, Deng Shintong is extremely sensitive to changes in light. Therefore, in Deng Shintong's eyes, the space area where Melgar was located formed a human-shaped space black hole, and all light had to bypass it. It's too conspicuous, Deng Shintong said softly. He drew his sword again and instantly unleashed a sky-etching slash. Beside Melgar, the huge four-pointed star appeared again, and the radiant power contained in it made her pupils shrink suddenly. Not only can he sense my attacks, he can also accurately determine my location. It happened twice, which was not an accident. She was more careful this time, but she was still discovered by the other party. Doesn't this mean that her abilities are completely controlled by the other party? Melgar was prepared this time and used light to form a barrier to block himself, causing a violent collision with the four-pointed star. But at this time, Deng Shintong and Fatty Su were already rushing towards her direction at lightning speed, one in front and one behind. In Deng Shintong's vision, she was just a black lizard-shaped hole. He shared his vision with Fatty Su, allowing Fatty Su to accurately locate Melgar's location. Melgar realized that the situation was not good. The information was completely leaked, but she was not aware of the other party's specific capabilities. This battle is not easy to fight. Melgar did not hesitate and turned around to flee into the huge city. There are high-rise buildings everywhere in the city, which are like mountains to humans. Among the towering mountains, where there is light shining, there is naturally no shortage of shadows. Melgar changed the way he fought and hid in the shadows. Light and shadow are the positive and negative sides of a form. In addition to being able to control light and create invisible murderous intent, she can also control shadows to fight. But Deng Shintong and Fatty Su also understood this. Melgar's speed was not fast, so when the two caught up with him, Deng Shintong simply put his hands together and summoned a huge Tiandao star to float above the city. Fatty Su was also holding a nine-toothed rake. In an instant, an ice and snow storm condensed outside his body. The temperature within a radius of 5 kilometers dropped sharply, and frost condensed on the ground and buildings, forming huge icicles. Through the reflection and refraction effects of these icicles and ice walls, the light filled the entire city area, almost eliminating all shadows visible to the naked eye. Melgar's heart was pounding, and the feeling made her extremely uneasy. It seems that every step he takes is under the control of the other party. Chapter 2255 Prism 2. Deng Shintong leaped into the air. He opened his arms just above the sky. The great Sumeru illusion. He was like a silver sun, and instantly his whole body burst into dazzling light. Wherever light passes, the naked eye receives the light, thus affecting the nerves. Melgar was caught off guard and had strong hallucinations. She was still within the city area, but suddenly, she saw the human youth coming in front of her, and then she stabbed him with a sword. Ah! Melgar was startled and quickly stepped back, then summoned blades of light to slash. But after she launched the attack, the figure of the young man in front of her quickly dissipated like foam. Everything is an illusion, but not entirely an illusion. Deng Shintong's ability to control the Great Sumeru illusion is getting stronger and stronger. This illusion is a combination of everything he can see in front of him, and 99% of it is real. Only his and Su Chunlei's figures were illusory. Melgar was unable to accurately capture the figures of him and Su Chunlei. He launched an attack blindly, which easily exposed his position and gave the two men the opportunity to attack. Fatty Su took a deep breath, made a trumpet shape with his left hand and placed it in front of his mouth, and blew a breath hard at Melgar on the street in the distance. Ice blizzard. A biting cold current gushed out of his mouth and instantly turned into a huge ice and snow storm. The cold air wrapped around a large amount of ice and snow fragments and swept in from the end of the street. But at this moment Melgar was in a state of mental confusion because she saw enemies attacking her from all sides. A huge four-pointed star also appeared above her head. The illusion caused by vision, by affecting the five senses, has completely made Melgar lose the ability to judge the current situation. She could only hastily form a large number of light barriers around her body, trying to resist all attacks directed at her. However, this decentralized defense method is simply unable to withstand attacks from two directions. Deng Shintong and Fatty Su attacked from the front and the side respectively, and their combined attack caused a huge crack in his defense. Boom! The ice and snow storm swept across the long street, ruthlessly destroying the buildings on the entire street. The huge four-pointed star exploded behind Melgar like a high-energy bomb. The two powerful forces caused Melgar's body to shake violently, and streams of blood continued to flow out from the corners of her mouth. Illusion! It's an illusion! Melgar had already realized this, but he didn't expect that he would meet someone of his kind who could use light. The only difference is that her ability is to use the power of light to attack, while the other party can directly manipulate light. Simply speaking from the attributes of the abilities, Deng Shintong's abilities are superior to hers, completely suppressing her. If his ability index wasn't high enough, he wouldn't even need Fatty Sue's help and could have defeated Melgar alone. But at the moment it does not affect their absolute advantage at all. The suppression of the lower-level superpowers by the higher-level superpowers, as well as the absolute information gap, left Melgar unable to fight back. If one wanted to avoid being affected by the light and shadow illusion, one had to close their eyes. However, if one closed their eyes, they would be unable to rely on light to attack. Melgar covered her chest with her hands. The previous attack did not cause much external injury, but the energy explosion of the etching of the sky at close range damaged her internal organs. She finally chose to close her eyes. At the critical moment, she suddenly turned into a shadow and rushed into the ruins. If you can't transform into light, then just turn into shadow. In this way, he will not be suppressed by Deng Shintong's light attribute ability. The city was indeed originally illuminated by light, but after a series of battles, the buildings collapsed, creating a shadowy space. Deng Shintong frowned, but he was not in a hurry to chase after him, because Melgar also has an ability to hide his attacks in the shadows, just like hiding her attack in the light. Therefore, if you rush into the dark, you will only lose your advantage. Tianping. Deng Shintong gave Fatty Su a look, and Fatty Su made an okay gesture to him, and then immediately began to spread the cold current in the direction where Melgar was going. Boom, boom, boom. Huge icicles rise from the ground, majestic and imposing, looking as if two huge mountain ranges have grown out of the depths of the earth. The blue ice was hundreds of meters high and grew rapidly along the street towards the direction where Melgar was fleeing. Finally, it bent at a high point in the sky. Not long after, Melgar suddenly discovered that the city where she was completely surrounded by a huge blue ice dome. Let me show you the results of our 4 months of joint training. Fatty Su chuckled. We call this the Shadowless light tactic. Deng Shintong folded his hands together and created an extremely huge and bright ball of light, which rose high into the sky. Then, using the reflective function of the huge ice dome, the urban area within a radius of 5 kilometers will be illuminated brightly. The light was so bright, as if a 10,000-watt headlight was lit in every corner. The light shines so brightly that there is no blind spot, even in the rubble. The two of them worked together for a very long time. In order to deal with Melgar's ability, Fatty Su specially studied the angles of the icicles to ensure that every reflection angle could cover all shadows with light. What looks like a hemispherical dome is actually a super polyhedron. The shadows were gone, and Melgar, who had been hiding in the shadows, was forced to show up. She still wanted to use the light to become invisible, but the playful smile in Deng Shintong and Su Chunlei's eyes made her realize how ridiculous her behavior was. Damn it, what are you laughing at? Melgar was furious, and huge blades of light swept across the air mercilessly, shooting towards the two of them at a rapid speed. But these attacks only penetrated the bodies of the two. It's just an illusion. As long as she opened her eyes, she would fall into an illusion, but she did not have the ability to fight with her eyes closed. Boom! The four-pointed star exploded beside her, instantly blowing off her entire arm. Ah! Melgar let out a shrill scream, and the next moment a huge torrent of ice and snow rushed towards her. The torrent of ice and snow was hundreds of meters high, carrying countless sharp ice spikes. If she was hit, she might be directly turned into strawberry smoothie. At this point, Melgar could no longer tell what was reality and what was illusion. She could only endure the severe pain to resist. Chapter 2256. Give him a taste of his own. But the light shield blocked in front of him, and the attack came from behind. The hard ice spikes pierced through her body, and the ferocious ice dragon soared into the sky, lifting her body high in the air. Melgar's body was also frozen in an instant and died completely. The weirder the ability, the faster they die. People with this kind of special ability are a combination of extreme strength and extreme weakness. Once their abilities are exposed and thoroughly studied, they will become extremely weak. It was not unfair for her to die at the hands of Fatty Su and Deng Shintong. In the territory of the Wulwan Empire, the battle is still going on, but the Huashu coalition forces are unstoppable, winning victory after victory and continuously advancing towards the central urban area. Gradually, Zheng Lu in the Binding Chains area also heard the news of General Silver Armor's death. A feeling of impatience quickly spread in his heart. But he knew that he had no choice but to kill the enemy in front of him as soon as possible. The surging energy shot out from the energy tower of the Wulwan Empire and concentrated in his body, almost bursting his body. He chased after Zhang Yi and began to pursue him relentlessly, as if he was risking his life. Zhang Yi also felt the difficulty of this battle. In terms of combat experience, physical strength and understanding of superpowers, Zheng Lu is far superior to him. However, Zhang Yi relied on his sufficient preparation and Ling's almost immortal human body to prevent Zheng Lu from gaining any advantage. Zheng Lu was furious. His body turned into afterimages all over the sky, chasing another white afterimage in the air. Every moment, the two of them might fight thousands of times. Zhang Yi was moving around, trying his best to avoid a head-on collision with Zheng Lu. Ling's body is indeed strong, but with Zheng Lu's outburst, the power stored in her body is being consumed at an accelerated rate. Now, only 20% is left. Zhang Yi felt like the battery of his communication equipment was running low. Xin, it's up to you guys. If you keep going like this, I really can't hold on any longer. Zhang Yi said secretly in his heart. Zheng Lu was like a giant black python, its body deformed and twisted in the endless wind, chasing towards him. The terrifying energy in his hands seemed to tear the world apart. They slammed together fiercely and launched an astonishing slash towards Zhang Yi. Cut with the mind, everything can be cut off as I wish. Zheng Lu's understanding of superpowers has reached a terrifying level, almost breaking free from the limitations of ability attributes. Even though he possessed the predictive ability of the second hand of time, the distance between the two was too close, leaving Zhang Yi with very little time to react. When the attack came, he could only force his body to move away, while his left hand quickly drew dozens of shadows in the air. The space was broken by the dimensional strings, and the strings that carried the material world were extracted, causing the space in that place to produce astonishing destructive power, which was used to block Zheng Lu's attack. This energy hedging method was effective. It indeed greatly weakened the power of the Mind Slash, and the aftermath that escaped was not enough to hurt Zhang Yi. If you keep going like this, I won't be able to defeat him until my energy is exhausted. Then you will be dead for sure. Ling's human form kindly reminded Zhang Yi Dao. Thank you. I know. Zhang Yi also knew that he could not delay any longer. But until now, at least, everything is still under his control. After the two sides exchanged blows, Zhang Yi widened the distance between them. Cracks appeared on the surface of Zheng Lu's body, like the cracked surface of a ripe pomegranate. From the cracks, you can see green flesh and blood, which looks extremely hideous. That is a sign of the body's collapse due to forcibly absorbing too much energy. In order to kill him as quickly as possible, Zheng Lu was also risking his life. The contest between Zhang Yi and him has lasted for nearly 2 hours. With the protection of Ling's human body, Zheng Lu was unable to kill Zhang Yi, but the energy stored by Zhang Yi in Ling's body quickly dissipated. If these energies were to gather together, they could easily destroy a human nation. By now, it should be almost over. Zhang Yi murmured something like this. Zheng Lu said nothing, but used the simplest and most effective attack method, Mind Slash, to attack Zhang Yi. A black energy sphere condensed in his palm. He threw it towards Zhang Yi with all his might. The sphere burst out with terrifying energy, and a huge light curtain that seemed to split the sky, and the earth covered everything in front. But this time Zhang Yi did not dodge. He clenched his palms, and all things in the universe were useless. He opened his arms in front of him and opened a door that was only one person tall. The dimensional gate in its most primitive form. Zhang Yi's defense will not decrease with the increase in the number of gates, but will increase instead. Senlua Wanxiang is just a stacking structure formed to increase fault tolerance. In fact, this door has the most stable defense and the ability to absorb external energy. Of Zhang Yi's 3,000 worlds, he only kept one to store his supplies, and the rest were all gathered together. This most primitive dimensional door was able to receive Zheng Lu's Roi slash. Boom! The black beam shot towards Zhang Yi, went straight to his body, and shot fiercely towards the dimensional gate. This time, it was not penetrated, but like a giant whale, it absorbed all the tremendous energy. When Zheng Lu saw the scene, his eyes changed again and again. But he soon discovered the problem. After canceling Senlua Wanxiang, Zhang Yi could only defend in one direction, leaving his body full of loopholes. As long as you get close, you will have a chance to tear this body apart with one punch. Zheng Lu thought naively, not knowing Ling's true identity or how terrifying her strength was. But this time, before he could attack, Zhang Yi's counterattack arrived first. Because Zhang Yi closed his dimensional door and was quietly suspended in the air. Ling's human body is so gorgeous that people think it is a decoration rather than a superhuman body made of the toughest material in the entire universe. Zhang Yi took a deep breath and slowly raised his right hand. Since the beginning of this battle, I will return all the energy you've accumulated from all the attacks you launched against me to you. As soon as he finished speaking, a huge dark star suddenly appeared above Zhang Yi. Huge, dark, and chaotic, it contains an extremely terrifying pressure, as if it is about to lose control and destroy everything at any time. Great Marshal Zheng Lu, this is my strongest attack. Come and take it and see how it goes. Blasphemy. After Zhang Yi finished speaking, he used one hand to suddenly push the star containing an infinite chaotic energy storm towards Zheng Lu. With me. We'll try to get you more updates. Please like and subscribe and share the video with your friends. Love you all.